All right, so this will be a funny one. The number one question across the board from divers, not really, mostly from people who don't scuba dive. The number one question across the board. And if you're a scuba diver out there and you've heard this, please let me know in the comments that I'm not crazy. The number one question. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Freedom Wanderer. I'm Chuck McDonald and I'm happy you are here with me. So today, let's do something a little different, a little fun. I am going to take the opportunity to answer probably 5 questions. I narrowed it down to 5 of the most frequently asked questions I usually get when it comes to scuba diving. So I'm going to share those with you. I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave them in the comments below and I will answer you as best I can. Now, as a precursor to these, please understand that any hobby, anything we do, it's my personal opinion, it's my personal thoughts, it's the way I personally react to these questions. So this is not a, this is the definitive only one answer you can give to a question, right? Please understand, this is just the questions I get and these are how they answer it. So let's start with number 5. All right, question number 5. Out of our top 5, we'll start from the bottom. What got you into scuba diving, Chuck? I get that question a lot. And so everybody's answer is going to be different there because everybody has their own reasons. But for me personally, I've always been the adventurous, adventure seeker type. Now, not life or limb type things. But you know, I enjoy the adventures. I enjoy seeing things people don't get to see. That's why I love travel so much. And I've always traveled with my parents as much as I could as a kid, as much as they would take us, right? And so I really love traveling. I love seeing things. And scuba diving to me is just another form of travel. I'm going to a place a lot of people really don't get to go, right? So how I got into it was, I was in my early 20s, and we're talking about in the year 1993. You may not be old enough to know that year, but I am. And so around that time frame, my uncle, my dad's brother, became a dive instructor. He had a midlife crisis. He quit his job. He packed up all his gear, went to a dive instructor school in Florida, spent 6 or 8 weeks, whatever it was, and became a dive instructor. So when he come home, he started telling everybody, I'm a dive instructor. If you want to get certified, let me know. Well, of course, I want to get certified scuba diving. So I went through my uncle. I was his very first student that he ever signed off on. My brother, myself, his son, my cousin, we all got certified. And so the 5 of us dove as a family for a long time. So it came through the ease of my uncle being the instructor. I think eventually down the line I would have gotten certified anyway because I really enjoy scuba diving. I love it. I'm glad I've done it. And so for me, that's how I got into it. Okay, number 4. So people ask me often, what type of diving do you like to do? Now that mostly comes out of the diving community, but in the diving community, whatever type diving that you're doing, you're normally around those type people, right? So for people who are not scuba divers that ask me this question, you have to understand that scuba diving is like any other hobby or sport or anything. There's different styles. There's different things you can do. You can dive in rivers. You can treasure dive. You can dive in the ocean. You can dive on reefs. You can dive in caves. You can dive in caverns. You can dive in rock quarries. You can dive in lakes. You can dive in ponds. There's just so much you can do scuba diving. For me personally, again, this goes back kind of to number 5 because I dove a lot with my uncle when I first got certified. Me personally, I love wreck diving. One, because I enjoy being in the ocean, but 1A, not really number 2, they're kind of both the same. I'm kind of a history buff, right? My wife gets mad at me because I watch documentaries on different things, whatever it may be. I've watched documentaries on all kind of stuff. So I'm kind of a history buff. So what happened with me is when I got certified, you know, if you're not a scuba diver, you get your open water certification, which certifies you to 60 feet. And then after that, if you want to advance, you go to advanced open water, which is down to 130 feet. So I was wanting to do my advanced open water. So my uncle's my instructor. So my first ocean dive, we went off the coast of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, to a wreck called the Hebe, H-E-B-E, which is a Dutch merchant ship, sits in roughly about 100 feet of water. So to do my advanced courses, I had to do deeper dives. So when we went out, we went on this wreck. I was fairly new, like I hadn't been diving really long. We had done a lot of caverns and quarries, and we did safe diving, right? This was my first dive in the ocean, all the way down to this wreck. And now this wreck, the Hebe, was a natural wreck. A lot of times in the ocean you have what's called artificial reefs, which they will take an old ship or something and they'll take it out there and sink it, and it'll create a reef system for fish and everything. Helps the habitat, helps the life. This was actually an actual wreck. It wrecked in World War II. It hit another ship somehow, and they sank a quarter of a mile apart. And so we went down on this wreck. So me being with my uncle, being first time in the ocean, first time on a deep dive, I tell people I was tunnel visioned. I watched my uncle the whole way. Now the visibility was about 30 feet, maybe 25, 30 feet. And so from the top to the bottom, you can't see the bottom. So as we came down, this kind of ghostly looking figure comes out of the greenness and blueness of the ocean. And me and my uncle are tying the anchor line off because we were doing a private dive, a guy with his private boat. So we were tying the anchor off and we were going to do our dive. So there I was, we tied the anchor off. I look up and there's this boat or ship listed off on its side, and the first thought in my head is I've only seen this on TV. So there I was, and I reached out and I touched it. So I was immediately hooked. I really love wreck diving. I love to learn the history behind the wrecks that I go diving on. I love being able to dive in and out of the wrecks if possible. A lot of your artificial reefs are set up that way. And so for me personally, wreck diving is my favorite because I really love the ocean as well. I love spearfishing and things like that, which if you watch my channel, you guys know that thing. So wreck diving, number 1 in my book. Okay, here we go. For all you scuba divers, what is your favorite name brand of dive gear? Okay, I'm one of those guys that I'm not personally tied to any type of dive gear. Now, if one wants to sponsor me, I will be more than happy to use their gear and promote it. And I'm not downplaying any gear. They're all good. I mean, they're designed to do specific things for certain purposes. You learn the safety parameters of all the gear that you buy, and that's what you do. So for me personally, and this probably comes because of the way I kind of grew up. Back when I first started scuba diving here on the east coast of South Carolina, we're talking about early 90s, mid 90s. I mean, you could go to any local pawn shop and find dive gear. You didn't care what the name brand was. Did it work? And you got it super cheap? Game on. Now, personally, right now, I have TUSA, T-U-S-A, if you're not a scuba diver, I have TUSA dive gear. And the reason I have TUSA dive gear is I found a local dive shop in Charleston, South Carolina that was giving an unbelievable deal on some new, brand new, out of the plastic gear. which I had never owned in my life. I've always used spare gear out of the pawn shops or what I could find on Marketplace and different things. Okay? So I personally use Tusa gear. I have spare gear. I'm pointing this way like you know where my gear's at. I have spare gear that's different name brands, and it's all good. I like them all. I'm not a down player of any of them. I get them serviced and looked at and make sure they work properly, and we're good to go. Okay, so number 2. I'm opening a Blue Frog. You guys know I love Blue Frog. I do have these and I actually drink them. And yes, they sponsor the channel, so there'll be a link in the description below. Go check it out. I'm talking a lot, so I'm having to drink a little bit more. Question number 2. This is a popular question. Dude, what if you freak out? Don't. Okay. So, I tell everybody this all the time when I get this question. What if you freak out, man? What if something happens? What if something goes on? What do you do? What do you do? I was like, okay, calm down. Don't go scuba diving until you can calm down. I tell everybody this all the time. Anytime you go to get certified as a scuba diver, when you meet your instructor is not there to teach you how to scuba dive. It's simple. Put the gear on, put the air in your mouth, and breathe. That's scuba diving. What they're there to teach you is the techniques and the skills to be a proficient scuba diver. To not freak out when things happen. If somebody kicks your mask and you get flooded with water or it comes off or whatever, you can't drink the ocean or you can't drink millions of gallons of water wherever you're diving. You learn how to slow down, assess the situation, use the techniques you have been taught. You're training. We never stop training if you want to be a good, proficient scuba diver. You never stop training. It's not just get certified and, figure it out. It's not that. I personally, right now, in the coming weeks, I'm taking another advanced course that I've been looking into, the self-sufficient course, or self-reliant course is what they call it. So we're constantly training. We're constantly going over our basic fundamentals that we do as scuba divers. So what if you freak out? You drown. That's what happens if you freak out. You stay calm, you stick to your training, and you handle the situation. That's why you pay the money. That's why you pick a good instructor who knows what they're doing, someone you can trust. Mine was my uncle. I've said that before, and I trusted him. And he watched me as I dove, and he never pushed me past my limits. He always worked with me where I was at. Get a good instructor. That's why you won't freak out. All right. So this will be a funny one. The number 1 question. Across the board, from divers, not really. Mostly from people who don't scuba dive. The number 1 question. Across the board. And if you're a scuba diver out there and you've heard this, please let me know in the comments that I'm not crazy. The number 1 question. Aren't you afraid of sharks? I have to laugh for a second and calm down. Okay, let me answer that as best I can without laughing my head off. No, I am not afraid of sharks. I am respectful of sharks. The only shark to be afraid of is the one you can't see. We're not mindlessly diving in the water, pulling at we're not trying to tick the sharks off, right? We are in their world. Yes, I have been around sharks underwater. Yes, I have actually touched sharks underwater. I've had sharks swim right by me, and you have a mask and you don't realize it till they've swam past you that you had a shark on you. It is just that quick. But if you don't do the things, sharks are opportunistic feeders for the most part. Sharks really don't attack. If you watch Shark Week on a certain TV network, you'll understand sharks don't attack. sharks feed. They don't have hands. They don't have feet. They can't touch, right? The only way they can figure out what you are is biting. Does that mean they don't bite scuba divers? Absolutely not. There have been incidents where scuba divers have been shark bit before and hurt and injured. Listen, we're in their world. I can tell you now, it's not just the sharks I watch. It's barracuda. I always hear about stingrays. Well, what if one of those stingrays sting you? I know there was a severe incident that happened and somebody died from that. That's just an anomaly. It really doesn't happen. You leave them alone. You don't antagonize them. You enjoy the fact that they let you in their world. And you respect their world. Okay? So, am I afraid of sharks? No. But that doesn't mean I'm going to pick a fight with one. Okay? So, I enjoy the beauty of the sea life when I'm there. I've told people plenty of times, even when I'm spear fishing, if I go spear fishing and I never find a fish I can shoot, you know, one that's legal or one that I want to take home, I'm not looking for max size or max limits. I enjoy eating fish. If I don't see anything I can shoot and I dive a 30-minute dive or a 40-minute dive in a shallow dive, I don't go home crying because I didn't get to shoot any fish. I enjoyed being in the water, seeing the sea life that's out there, all the life that grows under the water, not just fish, and enjoy the dive. So, number one, are you afraid of sharks? What about sharks? It's their world. Respect it and enjoy it. So no, I'm not afraid of sharks. I enjoy watching the sharks. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. My top 5 questions that I've been asked as a scuba diver. I know this is a little different video than I normally do, but I appreciate you guys hanging in this long and taking out with me. And please, in the comments, please, all you divers out there, please, or if you're not a diver and you have a question, please leave it in the comments. I will answer, or I will enjoy some of you divers out there to get those same questions. What's your most popular questions? All that good stuff. If you've hung in this long, I appreciate it. I love you. And if you cut the video off early, I still love you anyway. Please like, subscribe, comment, and we'll catch you on the next one.